You know, I do not take it lightly any chance I get to stand in this pulpit and to stand before you all. I know that I am standing, thank you, Ben. I know that I'm standing not in a pulpit, but in a pool. And what I mean by that is I am standing in a pool of tears, sacrifice, yeses. I'm standing in the tears of many people. One day, this movement, the 20 churches and the campuses and all of that was simply a dream. It was that would be nice if God could do that. And we're standing in it. And sometimes I feel like because life moves so quickly, it moves so fast, we forget, or we're not able to acknowledge the fact that we are standing in what one day was only a prayer. But I never want us to lose that reality. One day on Ashland, on Oakdale, in Champlain, there were prayers being let out about this day. One day there were prayers being let out about you being in that seat. I don't hear nobody. There were prayers being let out about you on this live. I remember the day where Evangelist Winona, the live was grainy, and we had one shot, and I used to sneak and watch it. But you are an answer to prayers. You being in that seat is an answer to prayers. And I don't want for people to ever forget that. You are an answer to prayers. The things that you're praying for today, we will one day look up and we will see. So I am thankful. I am thankful. If you could, go to John, the first chapter in John. English Standard Version, that is my translation of choice. We've been in a sermon series entitled Give It Up. And we're talking about, you can stay there, Ben. And we're talking about the importance of giving and offerings and sacrifice. And we've hit on multiple different things. And today, there was something that the Lord pressed upon my heart. Now, y'all have to know our apostle. It was yesterday morning. I was laying in bed playing with my son, and I got a phone call, and it's not abnormal. We talk often, and he said, well, what you doing tomorrow? Like tomorrow wasn't Sunday. I said, I'm going to be at church. He said, well, can you preach? I said, okay, yes, sir. So this wasn't like I had weeks to prepare this, okay? But as soon as he said it, as soon as he asked me, there was a phrase that had been just messing with me the entire week. And as I went into my study, I kept telling the Lord, that ain't got nothing to do with what he asking me for. It ain't got nothing to do. And the Lord challenged me all last night in my study to find him. To not try to connect dots or connect points or make sense, but to find him. And as I began to search for him and look for him in the scriptures, I began to see what he wanted to communicate today. And I hope that I am able to do that justice. John 1, English Standard Version. We're going to start at the 14th verse. This is a passage of scripture that I'm sure you've heard before. But again, when you hear it, you're going to say, what the heck does this got to do with anything? But we'll get there. Scripture says, and the word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we have seen his glory, glory as of the only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. John bore witness about him and cried out, this was he of whom I said, he who comes after me ranks before me, because he was before me. For from his fullness we have all received, grace upon grace. For the law was given through Moses, grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. No one has ever seen God, the only God who is at the Father's side. He has made him known. If you're taking notes, if you've ever heard me preach before, you know I love to say this, and I mean it. If you're taking notes, because note takers are history makers, simply for the sake of having a title, I need you to turn to your neighbor. Some of you are going to enjoy saying this to your neighbor, but I need you to turn to your neighbor and say, "You're full of it. You're full of it. You're full of it. You're full of it." Some of y'all enjoyed that a little bit too much. But if you're watching online, I need you to put that in the chat, put that in the comments section. You're full of it. You're full of it. Each and every one of us in here have something in common. If you are able to listen and comprehend and hear what I'm saying, if you're able to see me, if you're able to hear me, we all have something in common. Each of you sitting in these chairs, each of you watching online, we all are human. We all are human, and our human anatomy is unique to us. In all of creation, humanity was the only thing that God looked at and said, "Let us make in our image." Now, there are tons of debates going on about what that exactly means. Is he talking about the Trinity? Is he talking about the trifold nature of man? Is he talking about something else? What does he mean when he says, let us make man in our image? But the truth is, no matter where you fall on that debate, is that you are an imager of God. Whether you like it or not, you look like God. When he decided to make humanity, when he decided to make humans, he decided to make them look like him. Now, for many of us, that is a difficult thing for us to understand. That's a difficult thing for us to comprehend, because when we look in the mirror, we do not look in the mirror and see God, but we look in the mirror and see our flaws. We see our imperfections, we see our pain, we see our trauma, but we don't see God. And so because we do not see God, we cannot believe the truth that is, we are his image bearer. But one thing I need you to understand about this before we go any further, before we go any deeper, I need you to resolve the fact that you look like him. Every shade, every curve, every single hair on your head, every imperfection, every dip, every freckle, it looks like him. And this was something done very intentionally by God. He intentionally made you look like him because it's something that you can never shake. No matter what you do, no matter what you say, you can never shake the fact that you look like him. And one thing, or one place where people often go wrong, is they feel as if looking like him is a salvation issue. They think that being made in his image was a salvation issue. But do you know and understand that even those unbelievers look like him? Even those Muslims and those Hindus and those Buddhists and that person, those racists that you don't like, they look like him. Not because of anything that they've done, but because of the fact that they are human. The simple fact that their anatomy and their makeup looks like him, it proves that they are his imager. So being made and formed in his image is not a salvation issue. But when God says that you are made in my image, do you know that is actually a job description? let me help you. I have to lay this foundation in order for you to understand where I'm going. You being made in his image, is not a matter of salvation. It's not a matter of heaven or hell, but it's a matter of what you're called to do. The literal term, when God said, let man be made in my image, that literal term was the same term used by kings. When a king would conquer a land, he would place his image, Pastor Tillafero, a statue of him, a replica of him, at the outskirts of the land. Y'all, okay. To show anyone that walked on the land, came into the land, that this land is mine. The imager was a sign of possession. So when God creates earth, when he creates the trees and the seas, when he creates the birds and every animal, and he says, let me make man in my image, he is saying, because earth is mine, I need a representative to prove that this thing is never not going to be mine. As long as these humans walk on this earth, earth is going to belong to me. You are an imager of God. It has nothing to do with what you've done and everything to do with how you were created. Your very anatomy proves that you need to be here. The simple fact that you have breath in your lungs is proof to me, to heaven, to hell, to earth, that you have a job to do. Now, there is a dark side of humanity, though. There is a dark side of being a human, being finite, not having all of the answers, not knowing all of the things that we need to know, and serving an infinite, eternal God. Trying to take things that are eternal and place them into finite understanding is difficult. And one of the things that the enemy has done, and that he continues to do, is he attacks your image. He attacks your image. One of the reasons why the gospel is so beautiful, because the gospel marries image and identification. The gospel marries image and identification. What do I mean by this? You can look like something and not know it. You can look like something and not believe it. You can look like something and not want to. But the gospel marries image and identification. Watch this. Because the enemy knows that he can do nothing about your image, he now has to go for your identification. So now, because he knows I can't change anything about the fact that you look like God, I can't do anything about the fact that you look like God, I am now going to make you identify with something that is not like him. Because if I can get you to identify with something that is not like him, you'll never see that you actually look like him. The issue with culture today, it's not a matter of people who are so bad, so terrible, just in love with their sin, making choices. It is a matter of identification. The enemy knows. He knows that if I can get you to identify with something that is not like what you look like, you will live in confusion for the rest of your life. Why do you wonder? Why do you think that there are plans and agendas in culture that's whole objective is identification? The earlier I can get you to identify and become one with this narrative, the earlier I can get you to believe that you actually don't look like him. Identification is the issue. But let's move into God's entry into the world. His entry into the ancient Israelites' world, because I feel like it shows us a lot about this dichotomy. It shows us a lot about this marriage here. Because God, since the beginning of time, has been trying to get man to see that the importance is the marriage between identification and imaging. I need you to believe what you look like. I need you to believe what I created you to be. Since the beginning of time, God has been trying to get man to believe that he truly looks like him. When we enter into the world of the Israelites and God, in this context, with his chosen people coming onto the scene, one thing that I need you to understand, and I know this is going to mess with a lot of y'all thought processes and theologies, because you probably never heard this before. If you in young adults, you don't heard this before. But some of y'all probably have not heard this before. But you must understand that in this culture, it's called the ancient Near East. You can study it, you can look at it. In the culture, the worldview of the Israelites, Yahweh was not the only God. That little g ain't talking about flesh. It ain't, because some of y'all be like, you done made a God out of money. No, that's not what the little g is talking about in there. No. There were literal gods that whole people groups believed reigned over land and reigned over things. And so when Yahweh comes onto the scene and he tells the Israelites, hey, I am your God, the Israelites are like, hold up, buddy. Who is you? And he talking about not just I am your God, but he like, I'm a big G. I ain't one of these little G's. And they're like, whoa, buddy, hold up. What can you do for me? Because Egypt has their gods, and Assyria has their gods, and Babylonia has their gods. What can you do to me? What can you do for me? And so you have to understand that this Yahweh who was coming onto the scene, watch this, actually had to prove himself to a people. Most of what we see in the Old Testament is a show off from God. Showing that I am not like any of these other little G's. Okay. But I need you to understand, and this is where, because I know y'all like, Pastor Jamal, what this got to do with giving up? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, I got you. Because what I need you to understand is that this is where we come into all of this imager, identification, learning the marriage. This is why we come into the idea of sacrifice. Because with the Israelites, with the ancient Israelites, God is having to prove himself and having to show them, I chose you first. Now, this is uncommon in the ancient Near East. Because in the ancient Near East, gods were associated with land. So you only served me if you were living in my land. There were gods over different lands. Now, Paul tells us in the New Testament that these gods were actually demons that people served. So if that's messing with you, it's okay. It's okay. They were devils, okay? But these people made them gods because that's who they served. Okay? But there were gods over land. So you did not serve me and I did not do anything for you unless you were in my land. The difference with the Israelites is that God chose them before they even got into the land. He chose them before they got into the land and led them to land. This was uncommon to the Israelites. Whoa. There was this new God coming onto the scene and telling me that he chose me when this is unlike any other God. What God chooses a people first? No, God's choose land. I'm not in that land, so he can't be my God. What are you talking about? This makes absolutely no sense. Who is Moses? I have no clue who you are. We are in Egypt. We serve Egypt's gods. What are you talking about? This makes no sense. Each of these people groups understood the system of sacrifice. Sacrifice is not just autonomous to Christianity, but it is a system placed on earth. And there were people groups that understood this system and lived in the system. So you had the Egyptians who sacrificed to their gods. You had the Assyrians who sacrificed to their gods. You had the Hittites who sacrificed to their gods. You had the Urigatic people who sacrificed to their gods. These people sacrificed to gods because it was a system. But to his people, God had to get them to understand what sacrifice meant to him. Because to these gods, people sacrificed with expectation of favor. They sacrificed with expectation of receiving something. Because I want to receive favor with God and I want to look good in this God's sight, I'm going to sacrifice. How many of us view sacrifice like that? I'm giving because I want to move God in my direction. I'm giving because I got this new house, or I got this house that I like and I want God to do that. Or I'm giving because I want this new job. Or I'm giving because I want this to happen and that to happen. And God has actually become a genie in a bottle and not the creator of the universe. Most of us, I'll do that so we don't feel bad. Most of us have actually been serving under, don't tighten up on me, a pagan understanding of sacrifice. We have lived under and sacrificed in a pagan understanding of sacrifice. I am giving this, placing this on the altar because I want you to do something for me. I need you to do something for me, so that's why I'm placing this on the altar. But we literally see with the Israelites that God is saying, that's not what I want. How do I know? Don't worry about it. I got you. Okay. Let's take the Exodus, for example. One thing that I often hear people say, and I love doing this ever since I found this. I love doing this, Pastor Darrell. This is good. This is good. Because a lot of people are always confused at all the plagues. They're confused. They're like, why did God keep hardening Pharaoh's heart? And why did God keep sending all these plagues? And why did God keep doing all this stuff? And I love the intentionality of God. Nothing that he does was by chance, you know. People ask, they say, well, why did God harden Pharaoh's heart? Here's the first thing I'm going to show you. Pharaohs were seen as equivalent to gods. They were as if the spokesperson of the gods. So the Egyptian Pharaoh, he was the spokesperson of the gods. So in the earthly realm, he was the highest being in Egypt. One of the reasons why God had to harden Pharaoh's heart is because God had to show the Israelites and the Egyptians that he is nothing compared to me. He can't even control his own emotions. Do you see how I'm able to change his heart and turn his heart and do whatever I want to do with him? He is not a God. So why did God have to do all that? He did all of that to show the Egyptians and the Israelites, he ain't nobody. He ain't nobody. Do you see what I'm doing with his heart? He has no control over his own emotions. Who do you think he is? He's just a man like you. He too is an imager. Under my authority and my subjection, I can do whatever I want to do with him. He is not a God. So Pharaoh, he's moving Pharaoh's heart. But then we get into the plagues. Well, why so many plagues? I'll only go through a couple. But do you know that almost every plague was a direct attack to an Egyptian god? I know. You ain't never heard it. It's okay. I got proof. The first plague was turning the Nile into blood. Okay. The Nile was the main source of Egypt's economy. Egypt was only what Egypt was because of the Nile. The Nile was in the middle of the city, and what would happen is the Nile would flood, and the nutrients from the bottom of the soil, or from the bottom of the river, would come up to the top, and it would water the crops in the fields and bring them a harvest. So when the people wanted a better harvest, or when the people wanted more crops, they would offer to the Egyptian god Hapi. They would sacrifice to Hapi, and they would say, we want to see your favor. We want to see your favor when it comes to our crops and our harvest. We want a good year. So Hapi, we're giving you these crops, and we're giving you these grains, and we're sacrificing these bulls because we want to see your favor. And God, in the very first plague, turns the Nile into blood, saying he ain't nobody. Your sacrifices mean nothing. He can't even control what he's supposed to be over. In an instant, I just turned the Nile into blood, and he cannot reverse it. Your sacrifices mean nothing. So, okay, all right. Some of y'all still don't believe me. It's okay. The second plague. This is my favorite one, because people be like, Pastor Jamal, you stretching this. This too much. This ain't. Really? Frogs? What frogs got to do with anything? Frogs, Pastor Jamal, for real? Don't worry, I got you. There was an Egyptian goddess. She was the goddess of fertility, childbirth. Okay. And her name was Heket. This Egyptian goddess is who people would offer to, and if they had fertility problems, if they had problems in childbirth, or if they were about to birth, they would offer to her in hopes of a safe birth. So their hope was that she would cover them and keep them when it came to childbirth. Or if someone was barren, they would offer to her as well, hoping that she would open the womb. But y'all, this goddess, guess what her head was? Just take a guess. A frog. The head of this goddess was a frog. And this was literally God mocking the goddess of Heket by sending a plague of frogs down onto Egypt. Again stating, she ain't nothing. She's nobody. Your sacrifices mean nothing. Oh, but I'm not done. I'm not done, because then you have, I think it was the 9th plague, which was darkness. A direct attack to the sun god Ra. who we would offer up to, showing favor again for harvest. And we want to be able to get more sun to go on our crops, and so we could receive a harvest. But God said, Ra is nothing. Your sacrifices mean nothing. And then we have Osiris. Osiris, who is the god of death. If someone was sick, or if someone was getting older, they would offer to the god of Osiris, asking for him to pass over them and to cover them from death. And the 10th plague was God sending death on the firstborn of every Egyptian, saying that your offerings to Osiris mean nothing. And now I'm going to make you do what I've already committed to doing, which is sacrificing my firstborn. So you must understand that God in this moment is trying to get the Israelites and the Egyptians to realize sacrifice trying to move me ain't it. That's not what I want, nor what I need. I don't need you to offer a goat to make me feel good. I don't need you to offer a goat or a bull to make me move in your favor. All of this was so that God can show the Israelites, I don't need that. Well, what was it for? Because there were still regulations. There were still things that we had to do, and we had to do things a certain way. We had to do things a specific way. Why did I have to do all of these things? Sacrifice was not a matter of moving God in my direction. Sacrifice was a matter of making me clean before him. I did not say that sacrifice in the Old Testament was to make me right before him. That is not what it was. It was to make me clean. Sacrifice, listen to me, from his origin, sacrifice has always been a matter of access. Okay. It's always been a matter of access. Here's why. Because sacrifice was simply saying, before you enter into my presence, you must clean yourself through sacrifice. That is what it was for. It was not for God to bless you with a house. It was not for God to bless you with a car. But sacrifice was so that you could receive access into his presence. It was so that I wouldn't even be seen as right. I just want to be clean. Because I know that my dirt and my sin and my shame, the ones that I did commit knowingly and the ones that I committed unknowingly, do not deserve to be in his presence. But he still made an outlet. He still made a way for me to at least enter in. Sacrifice was about access. Yahweh was saying to his people that I don't need you to try to bribe me. I need you to want to get close to me. Sacrifice was not about people trying to wave in front of God things that would please him and make him happy, but sacrifice was all about getting closer to him. Why? Because you look like him. Because you are an imager. And he knows that the only person that can help you wade through the nuances of humanity is him. the one that created you, the one that made you, the one that formed you, the one that fashioned you. He knows that the only person that can help bring understanding to your humanity is him. The only person that can help bring understanding to your anatomy is him. And so God said that if I want my people to make it from now until Jesus, I at least have to give them an opportunity to get close. I at least have to give them a way to get close. Not a way to change my mind, not a way to move me, but a way to get close to me, because getting close to me is the only way that they are able to make it in this life, because they look like me. And I have to be able to show them what that means. I have to be able to show them what that looks like. They look like me. So sacrifice was about access. Sacrifice was about getting close. Sacrifice was about being able to enter in to his presence. But Old Testament sacrifice was not the end, because there was still a need. There was still a need, that a void that was left. Oh, okay, yes, I can be clean to enter your presence, but that's temporary. That only lasts me while I'm in the tent of meeting, while I'm in the tabernacle. That only lasts me for that time. Something else has to be done to ensure that I don't have to go and do this repeatedly. That I don't have to go and sacrifice repeatedly. Why do we not sacrifice goats and bulls anymore? Because that sacrifice only gave me temporary cleanliness. To be in his presence for a time, but then I had to leave. And God was saying that was never my intention for you. I never wanted a people that temporarily lived in my presence. But because you look like me, and my goal and my plan from the beginning was to live with you, I need to do something to ensure that your sacrifice is not simply temporary, but it's eternal. Many of us, for 2020, it revealed to us that we were living in a tent of meeting world. Where I would come, y'all not gonna like this. And I would lay things on the altar. God, I'm gonna give you my next season. But it was only temporary. God, I'm gonna give you this next yes. But it was only a temporary goat that did not last long. God, do you want to know what the word of the Lord is for you? I heard the Lord say, can I get a last yes? Can I get a final yes? Can I get Can I get a final yes? A yes that doesn't require you coming back for another one. A yes that doesn't require you going and getting another lamb or another goat or another bull. Can I get another yes, a last yes that doesn't require for you to have to go out and get something else to temporarily come into my tent? But can I get a yes that lasts for the rest of your life? Can I get a yes that makes you my image, makes you my son, makes you my daughter, makes you walk with me for eternity? Can I get a last yes? And what 2020 showed most of us is that we lived in a tent of meeting world, where we lived from yes to yes. And that in between was dangerous. 2020 for most of us was the in between. You asking me to give you a yes. I just lost my job. I just lost my family members. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. And you're asking me to give you another yes? When the Lord is saying you would have been prepared for this if you gave me an eternal one. If you didn't come in and out of the tent, in and out of the tent, in and out of the tent, you would have been prepared for 2020. If the last yes you gave me was eternal, you wouldn't have been caught off guard. So many of us are living in a tent of meeting world where out of fear, I can't give you an eternal yes. I can't give you an eternal yes because I don't know what's on the other side. So I will continue to live from yes to yes. The in-between is dark, it's dangerous, it's scary. And for most of us, the in-between is Egypt. It's slavery. But God is saying, are you willing to give me an eternal yes? An eternal yes. I'm here for your last yes. Your last yes. The last yes that I have to give him. The last yes that I have to give him. After this yes, I won't make him fight. After this yes, I won't make him yearn. After this yes, I won't make him push and pull. But this is my last yes. Now, what do we do? What do we do once we've given our last yes? See, we have a template. We have a template for this. Because we have to ask ourselves, if that is not the Old Testament, if the Old Testament model or system of sacrifice, it's not necessarily what I need to focus on, then why am I still sacrificing? What am I sacrificing for? This has to do with money. This has to do with time. This has to do with love. This has to do with wisdom. Oh my God, because so many of y'all, I'm hearing it now. This is the last time I'm going to do that. I'm not letting that happen to me again. This the last time. I ain't letting them hurt me again. Baby, do you see what you do on a daily basis? What do we do? Where are we giving from? What we must understand is that Jesus came as God's ultimate sacrifice. God said to us, I am going to show you what I mean. Sacrifice is not about favor. It's not about moving me, but it's about getting close. So I am going to show you what I mean by sacrificing my son so that you can have an eternal path to closeness. I am going to show you what I mean by sacrifice. By sacrificing my own son, so that you can have an eternal connection between image and identity. So that you can have a bridge between image and identity. I'm going to sacrifice my own son. Scripture says in Colossians 1:17, it says here, and he is before all things, and in him all things hold together, and he is the head of the body, the church. He is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in everything he might be preeminent. Watch this. For in him the fullness of God, listen to this, was pleased to dwell, and through him to reconcile to himself all things, whether on earth or in heaven, making peace by the blood of his cross. And you You who were once alienated and hostile in mind, doing evil deeds, he has now reconciled in his body of flesh by his death in order to present you holy and blameless and above reproach before him. If indeed you continue in the faith, stable and steadfast, not shifting from the hope of the gospel that you heard, which has been proclaimed in all creation of the earth, of which I, Paul, became a minister. And then we see in Colossians 2:9-10, it says, for in him the whole fullness of deity dwells bodily, and you who have been filled in him, who is the head of all rule and authority. What am I trying to get you to see? In our main scripture, in Colossians 2, in Colossians 1, we see a word that is so synonymous, or that is so interesting to our entire story, because the scriptures say that Jesus, when he came doing the ultimate sacrifice, working the ultimate sacrifice, living the ultimate sacrifice, the scriptures say that he was full. He was able to sacrifice because he was full. He was able to sacrifice because he was full. The fuel that led Jesus to the cross was the fact that he was full. He gave from fullness. He gave from something bigger than himself. And for so many of you, whenever you hear, I heard it, I hear it, I know it, give it up. Give it up. You asking me to give when I feel like the last 2 years God just been taking? Give it up. You asking me to give when I feel like the church ain't been there for me? Give it up. Give it up. You asking me to give when I feel like God abandoned me? Give it up. You got the nerve to ask me to give something? Make me feel better because I'm coming back. But you want to ask me to give? You want to ask me to sacrifice? If that is you, you have just screamed one thing to me. You are full of it, but not full of him. Now, whatever the it is, baby, you can put it there. But when I am full of him, my giving isn't even about you. Whether that is time, whether that is money, whether that is wisdom, whether that is love, whether that is an impartation, my giving is not about you. Because when I am full of him, I am not giving for something, but I am giving from something. Okay, I need y'all to get this. When I'm full of him, I'm not giving for something in return, but I'm giving from something. If I am giving from something, I'm giving from eternity, because eternity lives in me. I'm giving from wisdom because wisdom lives in me. I'm giving from grace and truth because grace and truth lives in me. Our scripture that we read said that from his fullness we have received grace upon grace. I am not giving in my own strength, but I am giving through his grace. For many of you, it is difficult for you to give this next thing because you are giving it in your own strength. It is difficult for you to give this next thing because you are giving it in your own understanding. And can I tell you, your strength and your understanding took a beating in 2020. You don't have it in you to give this next thing. You don't have what it takes to give this next thing. But it needs to come from him. It needs to come from being full. That final yes is a product of fullness. Now I give from grace. And that grace comes from his fullness. Because I'm filled with him, I can freely give. I can give through his grace because it's not me, but him through me. I can give more time. I can give more energy. I can give more money. I can give more of myself because it is not me. It's not envy. It's not strife. It's not jealousy. It's not anger. It's not revenge, but it's him. I'm full of him. I'm full of him. Stay right there, Ben. I'm full of him. If you know that today needs to be your final yes, I need you to stand to your feet. If you know that today needs to be your final yes, I need you on this live to lift your hands. As you're standing, I need you to lift your hands. Because the Lord spoke clearly to me. He said that today I need a final yes. I need a final yes. I do not want to wrestle anymore. I do not want to strive anymore. I do not want to fight anymore, but I need a final yes. And so many of us are scared to give that yes because we're empty. 2020 emptied us out. Every scripture that we read was null and void. Every worship song that we heard was null and void. And we are empty and depleted. And now we get to a place where the church is about to open back up and they got the nerve to ask me to give something. I have nothing to give. But the Lord wants you to know that he doesn't want it from you, but he wants it from your fullness. He doesn't want it from you, but he wants it from your fullness. Because if it came from you, it would be for something. But when it's from him, it is from something. He wants your yes to come from eternity. He wants your yes to come from security. He wants your yes to come from grace. He wants your yes to come from faith. So right now in this moment, I need you to lift up those hands and give God a last yes. A last yes. It can be scared. It can be afraid, it can be angry, but let it be the last one. Let it be the last one. Let it be the last one. We say yes to your will and we say yes to your way, because from here on out we are giving from fullness. We are not giving for anything. We are not giving to receive. We are not giving to get, but we are giving from you. We are giving from being full of you, full of your grace, full of your truth, full of your mercy, full of your love. Come on, give them another yes. The last yes. There is no yes after this. This is my yes for 20. This is my yes for 30. This is my yes for 40. This is my yes for 50. This is my yes for 60. You spent too much time making God fight you to say yes. Just imagine what life would look like if your yes was eternal. Just imagine what your life would look like if your yes was full. Come on. Come on, this sacrifice is not from me, but it's from you. It's from fullness. Come on, get full in this moment. Get full in this moment. Get full in this moment. Come on, come on. If it's hard to say yes, then drink of him. Come on, get full in this moment. Get full in this moment. Come on. That last yes. That eternal yes. Come on. Come on. This is what sacrifice looks like. Your sacrifice needs to stop being for things and needs to start being from him. Come on. This next season is given to you, but every season is given to you. Come on. Lift those hands, lift those hands, lift those hands. Come on. Come on, come on. This is my last yes, God. You won't have to fight me anymore. You won't have to wrestle with me anymore. Come on, this is my last yes. This is my last yes. I want to be full with you. I want to be full with you. I want to be full with you, so that from this day forward, I can give from you. I can give from you. You're already in me. Now help me to give from you. Come on, my last yes.
My last yes. My last yes. Come on, online. Your last yes. Your last yes. Your last yes. I'm not full of it, but I'm full of him. I'm full of him. I'm full of him. And because I'm full of him, I say yes to whatever's next. And I say yes to whatever's after that. Come on.
We say yes. You can have all of me. We say yes.
Come on.
We surrender.
Come on.
We say yes.
Oh, Sheba. Oh, come on.
We say yes.
Press a little harder. Press a little harder. Come on.
We say yes.
Come on. Press a little harder. My sacrifice is not trying to woo you or sway you, but it's from you. It's from you. You're in me. Hey. That's my motivation. Come on. Woo! Come on. We say yes to you. We say yes to you. We say yes. You won't have to fight me again. You won't have to fight me again. But I say yes from now on. Come on.
Say yes.
Come on. There is so much on the other side of your yes. And what the Lord is trying to get you to understand is that if you were full of him, the yes wouldn't be as hard. If you were full of him, the yes wouldn't take as much time. If you were full of him, the yes would not take as much energy. The reason why this is so important, and I hate to burst your bubble, but even though 2020 was so difficult, this pandemic was so difficult, you are coming up on a hard yes. I know because the world opened back up and we outside, you think things may be getting a little easier, but you are coming up on a hard yes. For some of you, it has to do with your job. For some of you, it has to do with your location. For others of you, it's relationships and friendships. But you are coming up on a hard yes. A difficult yes. And the Lord wants for you to know that the only way that yes is sustained is if it's from him. The only way that yes is sustained is if it's from his grace and his truth. So now, Father, I ask that you fill every person under the sound of my voice with more and more of you. Fill every person with more of you so that they can say yes again. So that they can say yes again. The last yes, fill them with you. The last yes, fill them with you. The last yes, fill them with you. For this last yes, fill them with you. For this last yes, give them more of you. For this last yes, give them your strength and your grace and your truth. For this last yes, give them more of you. Come on. Fill them, God, with your grace, with your truth, with your mercy, with your strength. For this last yes, come on. Hallelujah.